We have seen in this country also post Babri Masjid, certainly there has been polarization more than what it was earlier, and in a very different angle because of some amount of positive discrimination. There has also been polarization. So integral vision finally depends on what? If I'll tell you that, in Kannada they say, Kivi Mat. So something which I'll give you as a final tip for integral vision is that first you check the vision yourself. Whether you are addressing to long-term needs, not just the short-term problems. Whether you are into a collaborative process. Whether your vision embodies shared values. Whether it expresses all the unique assets. Then there is a language which is very closely related to the work we do. What we generally find that the language which we use, which we profess, is not the language of that particular domain, of that particular age, of that particular stage in life. How many of us have that? If you are not able to communicate to me in the language which I require, if you are not able to clear the TOEFL exam and you want to go to the US, it's a very simple thing. If you can't communicate in a language, you can't work in that language, and you cannot work with people who belong to that language. And there is no language big, no language small. It is just a communication skill. There is a different story altogether that the world runs in English, and for that precise reason, if you are comfortable with this language, it is helpful to you. There is another concept which they say, go to the balcony, which means you are in a position to detach yourself and you can see the whole problem. You can see the whole conflict, and you are able to understand the conflict as if you are looking from a distance. They say you go to the balcony, it just means that you should be mentally capable of seeing the whole issue, understanding the whole issue, and you are also capable enough to execute on whatever you understand and whatever is your integral vision. I'll tell you the final words on integral vision which affect us also, being in the third world. This is what Melinda Gates has to say about integral vision. She says, in order to develop a more integral vision, some of the worst human tragedies in the world today go on because we don't really see them, says Gates. We rarely make eye contact with people who are suffering, so we act sometimes as if the people don't exist. Making eye contact with the other is one of the best ways to learn to see through walls. It is the most effective way to develop integral vision. So you see yourself, you experience yourself, you learn the art of seeing through walls, you learn the art of seeing through minds, you learn the art of finally being confident that this is the integral vision of this conflict, and on this integral vision, I will decide my strategy and resolve the issue. Music into the second part of leading through conflict. How successful leaders transform conflicts into opportunities. We've just been through with the first soft tool by name Integral Vision, which is the first of the 8 tools which would help you resolve crisis and make that crisis an opportunity for further development of leader, the family, the organization, the state, the nation, and the earth at large. Coming to the next, second soft skill, second tool in the great toolbox of the hammer story which I told you is the systems thinking. People who are practitioners of management or academicians in the management field are extremely comfortable with what system is. Identifying all or as many as possible of the significant elements related to the conflict and understanding the relationship between them. Not that you identify all or as many possible of the components, of the critical elements which lead to the conflict. You also have to understand the relationship. It is a MRI, it is a workflow mechanism, it is a diagram of the nervous system, or it is a diagram of a couple of other systems, also each overlapping each other, and finally giving you the product. How many of us think systems in your family life, in your professional career, and in whatever activity you indulge in? There is absolutely no activity today which can be handled without a systems thinking. Where do you define the boundaries? Okay, I have to handle a communal situation. Somebody has to handle medical crisis. There are loads and loads of patients who died because they were not transported in a medically enabled vehicle. That is an ambulance. And having brought to the hospital, the ramp or whatever is there was not conducive enough for a person who is in serious medical crisis. And in that, transporting the person loses his life, what we call as the golden hour. So the golden hour is lost. Where do you define the boundaries of the system of which you are a part? This is one of the most critical questions of leadership today. And this comes from a person who is working at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. You start with a problem. You don't know where the boundaries will end. It's an open boundary game. You have to fix your boundaries. It's not a very small thing. You have to decide the perimeter. You have to decide the fence. And then you start working on it. So your capability to decide the correct boundaries and not imaginary or presumptive boundaries is the capability which will push you forward towards the resolution of the conflict. Next. So your understanding of the organization you head, in heart and mind, in soul, in word and spirit, in totality, that is your biggest asset. And that is precisely why you are there. You're not a leader to give explanations. You're not a leader to come tomorrow and say that I didn't understand the system. You're not there to somebody tell you, oh, this is like this, police happens like this. You can keep telling me or keep telling the police on the TV screens. But once if you come and tell me, I'll tell you what it is. The current leadership is leading different sectors apart from each other. So this is what is a grave allegation by an uneducated African lady. Politics has political leaders. The economy has business leaders. Commercial farmers have their own leaders. Academicians have their own leaders. NGOs have their own leaders. Next. So each of the sectors has different goals. Politics, business, commercial farmers. So at the end of the day, are the leaders ripping us apart? Or are the leaders providing direction to a system? And a big system, say like the Indian system, it has many systems, which is a part of that system. And if you go by the systems theory, only the whole is an entity. Rest is just a web of relationships. So a part cannot exist without the whole. Whole also cannot exist without the part, but there can certainly be an issue where there might be a replacement of parts depending on the way we are moving. Next. So all the leaders, what they want is that we should follow. What does the leader want? Does the leader want an integral vision? Does he want systems thinking and all the other 6 tools which I'll be talking about after this? Or he wants followers? To best of my understanding, the leader wants followers. So as long as he gets his followers, he is happy that he has been successful. And in the process, we are being led apart. Next. So if you understand the system, then you will understand to fix a communal problem, to resolve a communal problem, what are the interfaces you have? The internal interfaces, the external interfaces, the people who talk about a mindset inside the police itself. Whether I'm aware of it, whether I'm unaware of it. And that group, if it is existing within the police or in any other organization, what sort of interface will it have with the external segment about which we are talking? What are the external interfaces? What are the linkages? What impact can one particular component bring? What will be the role of the media? What will be the role of the people's representatives who are certainly an influencing bloc? There is no denying that fact. So under those circumstances, we have to select better boundaries. The better boundaries might be different for me, might be different for you, might be different for different boundaries will be different for the simple reason that my knowledge, my learning, my experience, my exposure, my skill sets, my capability to handle crisis, and my capability to deliver is different from you, and yours is different from some other person. I derive strength for some issue, some facet, some skill, some thought process. You derive from something else. The last word is that you should also fix the issue. You should also fix the conflict in a manner where it gets resolved with a shelf life of at least 20-30 years, if not more. Properties of the parts. The cumulation of all these parts, you don't make it a whole. But from the whole, you come down. Then you will understand the dynamics. In very simple terms, you know the length and breadth of the country. You know where we exist in India. You know whether India is a nation state or not. You know the nature of governance in this country. You know the nature of economy in this country. You know the nature of polity in this country. If you know all these things, then you can exist. How can I accept the fact that I need all these skills, I need all this knowledge, and somebody who is running a company of $5 billion does not need any of these? Actually, he needs all of this. But he has outsourced all this knowledge or all these tasks and activities to some sort of middleman. You call them legal advisors, you call them financial advisors, you call them whatever you want. End of the day, the ideal situation is that in any company, at least from middle management to top management, you ought to have people who understand the complete canvas. What we call a part is merely a pattern or inseparable web of relationships. It is existent there, it cannot move. And there is a relationship which is maintained between the different parts, which is not concerned with you. You cannot make even a fraction of a difference to that. You just have to understand and use it to best of your understanding. Systems thinking is simple. If it's not simple, make it simple. How do you make it simple? We call something as a criminal justice system. Who is there in the criminal justice system? Police is there, which means investigation is there. You have prosecution, you have judiciary, you have the prison. So all combined, it becomes the criminal justice system. Now, health of those systems you should know. How are our prisons running? What is the quality of investigation? How are our judicial processes running? How is your prosecution running? So until unless you know these 10, 12, 14 components, you will never familiarize yourself with the criminal justice system. And there are a lot many people in this country who keep commenting on the criminal justice system without understanding the criminal justice system. So you can deliver something only if you have the capability to understand things complex, think simple, and deliver simple. Simplicity is at the core of Apple. Simplicity has to be at your core also if you have to deliver. Otherwise, you can keep talking round and round and round and doesn't make any difference to anybody. You feel that you have impressed people, but people are also very smart. So they will go out and say that this guy was talking bullshit. So that is how it goes. Think systematically about your role. View yourself and your organization from outside the box. If you talk to me anything about the police, then I react. If you talk anything about me, I react. I have my complete defenses ready. I'll say I've got 8,000 constables and officers. How can you talk against me? That is not the way things work in the 21st century. That is not the way we were taught in schools and colleges, and more so in very well academically established business schools. So they ask us to think systems. So we don't have a choice. We also think systems. So it's outside the box. Next. Practice asking, and then what? Think twice before you call someone as enemy. This is a very unsavory term. I think nobody likes. In every civilization, every society, they say, don't call your enemy also enemy. But here, I want to remain in my comfort zone. I'm a non-performer, but I want to project as a performer. Share types. Correct. So I say, media is my enemy. Now, yenadru madidare or ket baritara. So I am safe now. Whatever they write, my defenses are ready. And I am in a comfort zone where everybody is bad and I am good. So I am also a demagogue of one kind. So the system's thinking. So finally progressing from integral vision, system thinking primarily gives you an idea as to where you stand. It is some sort of a correlation which you have between mission and between vision and mission. So this is much more tangible where you know your system. Integral vision is slightly at a 30,000 feet level. The third soft tool to handle the hardest problems of conflict across the globe is what they call as presence. All of us are present here. All of you are present here, I presume. Correct. But this presence is of no great value. I'm not challenging that, but it's of no great value until unless you're able to grasp the complexities which are happening around you. Or the author of this book goes a step further and he wants all your mental, emotional and spiritual resources to witnessing ourselves and the conflict to which we are a part of. So your mental, spiritual, emotional, everything should be there. They say you use your all your sense organs. Somebody only listens, it doesn't see. Somebody only sees, it doesn't listen. Somebody can't feel. Somebody can do everything, but he can't think. But all his senses are right. We can compliment him for that. This is the ideal situation in today's world. Next.